Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today's episode is a gentle reminder to take vacation, something I am not good at. And I'm just back from taking about 8 days off to go to Ireland. And the trip almost didn't happen. I'm going to share that story. And really, upon reflection of this whole trip, I have realized how bad I am at taking vacation and how important it is. I'm going to share a little bit about how I recognized the importance of it, not through myself, but through others. And I didn't grow up really taking a lot of vacation. That's a huge part of it because my dad was always self-employed. He was a contractor. And taking vacation was really hard. And that is still to this day something I experience. Now, my husband has a job, as I call it. So he was able to take paid vacation, made it a lot easier. But for me, it's always harder. And that's partly why I only went for 8 days. But let me take you back to me almost not getting there. So Ireland is somewhere that I've always gone almost every year because Declan is Irish. He's from Ireland. He came here like 20 years ago. We met here in Canada, and then he decided to stay here. We've built a life here. We are struggling with living in Canada right now for a whole bunch of different reasons. So we're trying to spend more time over there. Now, Ireland has its own shenanigans going on, but we love it there. And Declan has to see family. Now, he has aging parents. I have now walked that whole thing. I have gone through the aging parents process. Both my parents are gone. He walked that with me. He went through it with me, was incredibly supportive. And it is really hard to do. And it's really hard to do when you're away. So we're trying to spend more time over there. So Dec goes 2 weeks before me, actually. And then I was just going to join him for the last 8 days. But I almost didn't make it there because of Dolly. So anyone who has an aging senior dog that they love more than anything will understand this. It can be really hard to travel. And the last couple of years has been a little bit more challenging. She's had health stuff going on. And I'm obsessed with my dog. If you look at my Instagram for 2 seconds, you'll see that. And I don't care who you are in my life. I love my dog more than you, with the exception of Declan. And to be honest, that can change day to day. So she is my life. We have had dachshunds always. We had a dachshund before who went to 15 and a half. Her name was Quincy. Miss Q, we used to call her. And we just kind of know that whole senior dog life. And it can be really challenging. So I had someone coming to stay at the house. We can't really have Dolly go somewhere because she needs her familiar surroundings, and that ties into the story. And it just so happened that a new friend of mine, her name is Nicole, she's amazing, was coming, needed a place to stay. So she was coming to our house anyway. She's like, I can dog sit. And I was like, amazing. She had met Dolly before. So I was getting all the ducks in a row before I left. I had so much work going on. So it was just Banana Town, as I call it, trying to get everything done before I went. I had so many projects going on. It was just a really busy time. So I wanted to make sure that Dolly was in great shape before Nicole came. So I had booked her routine checkup with her ophthalmologist. So yes, my dog has an ophthalmologist. She has had eye issues since we got her. And a particular incident happened in 2017 that caused a lot of eye issues. That's another story for another day. But to put it in perspective, out of the 5 most traumatic events of my life, this event is number 3. Her origin story is for her eye issues is number 3. So I was getting her checkup and I kind of could tell her eye looked, one of the eyes was maybe looking a little bulgy, like a little bit, she has eye pressure drops. So I take her Wednesday morning. I'm supposed to leave Friday at 2:00 to the eye doctor. And sure enough, her eye pressure in her right eye was like sky high. So it's supposed to be under 25. It was at 44. And just a shout out to Dr. Richard Kleiss. He is the most amazing eye doctor, and people fly in from all over North America to see him. He's at the Forest Hill Animal Clinic, and we are so fortunate that we live in the city where he works so that we can see him. He's just an incredible vet. So I start tail spinning because of this news, in part because we have a dog sitter who's going to take care of Dolly, and she really didn't sign up for doing a whole bunch of different eye drops every single day. So Dolly usually gets some regular eye drops, but this was going to be 2 different eye drops, 10 minutes apart, 3 times a day. So this is a big, tall ask of someone. And I was picking Nicole up from the train station, and I was like, I don't know if I can really ask this from you. I'm thinking of not going. It's a lot. Like, how do you feel about it? So we had a long conversation about it. Dolly was in great spirits, though, so nothing was going on in terms of like the overall health. And miracle upon miracles, Nicole was okay doing the eye drops because Dolly's really great at them. Like, she just sits there and like, but the stress of this was sending me, into a tailspin. So this was the Wednesday. I had booked another follow-up appointment at 8 a.m. Friday to make sure that the eye pressure was going down, because if the eye pressure didn't go down, I couldn't get on my flight, which was, I was leaving for the airport at 2:00. So I it's like not thinking I'm going to Ireland, and I really needed a vacation. Like, I have just been going so hardcore for so long, and I needed to get away. I needed creative inspiration, which usually comes from nature. And I would be going to the west coast of Ireland, which is just, I think, the most stunning part. I'm a little bit biased. I totally recognize that. So I'm not doing well for those couple days, super stressed. I'm having conversations with Nicole, like, do you think you can handle this whole routine? I hadn't left Dolly in 5 years, like on a proper vacation. The last 3 trips to Ireland, Declan had gone alone. I hadn't gone, partly because of the chaos of the pandemonium, partly because I didn't want to leave Dolly. There was just a lot of reasons there. But this time I really felt like I had to go to Ireland, and it just felt really important to go. So Thursday night, I'm stressed out about the whole checkup, and the next morning, I don't sleep well at all. I wake up feeling like absolute garbage, and I knew my body was starting to wig out, freak out. I woke up knowing that I might actually be sick. That's how bad I felt. And I went into my cupboard and I found all my homeopathic remedies, and I was taking all these different things, and I wasn't feeling any better. And I knew, like, there's just this feeling that I get when my body's being overwhelmed with emotions and stress, that I'm just going to be blunt here. I just have to barf my guts out. There's, like, I've talked about this in other episodes. I'm just someone that's just how my body purges. And it's awful. Like, and there's just a moment where I know that there's nothing I can do to stop this process. So she had an 8:00 in the morning appointment, got in the car, start driving over. I had to leave at like 7 because it's the other side of the city. And halfway through the trip, I'm pulling over on a side street to barf. Not fun at all. And I'm like, I just need to make it to this appointment. Like, it was so crucial that I got there. So I get to the appointment. I'm basically in my pajamas. Like, I think I was in leggings and like an old sweatshirt, and just like, I must have looked like, death warmed over walking into this appointment, but it wasn't about me. It was about Dolly. And I'm just so nauseous. And then we have our appointment, and like the best news ever, that her eye pressure went right down to 21 from 44. So we were in the safe zone, which meant that I could go on the trip, which was like crazy to get my head around, because again, I had to leave at 2:00. I hadn't packed or done anything. Like, there was nothing happening because it was all resting on this appointment, and whether I was going to be okay leaving Dolly, whether Nicole was okay taking care of Dolly. So I was so relieved, but I felt so sick. Like, the last few days of work and stress had just built up, and I had to pull over 2 more times on the way home from the vet to be sick. And one of the stops, the last stop, was a botanical garden / park that's near my house. And I just pulled right over and basically threw myself into the forest and just was like, just so sick. Yeah, that's how my body purges emotions. It's so delightful. It's so lovely. It's amazing. So, but it is what it is. So I made it home. I looked like a ghost by the time I got in the door, and I was like, Nicole, I got to just lie down for an hour. And I could kind of feel like the worst was over, like that I had gotten what I needed to literally out of my system. I had quite a headache though, and I hadn't eaten, but I managed to get some ibuprofen into me because I had to, and lie down for an hour. And I woke up feeling much better. And I was like, okay, we are getting on this trip. We are having this experience. We are taking some downtime. I desperately needed to get away from my computer screen for time. Like, that's such a huge part of it. It's just like not having the major screen time. And I felt really emotional about the whole thing, just leaving Dolly. And I really struggled with giving myself permission to take the break. And I do sometimes struggle with that. It just wasn't something that we did a lot of growing up. We didn't take a lot of vacation. I have some memories. Once in a blue moon, I think we would go to Florida for a week or so, or go to Grand Bend. I remember some of those trips, but it just wasn't a huge part of my life. And it wasn't a part of Declan's life either. His parents, his whole family ran the town grocery store. So he's from a really small town in Ireland called Manor Hamilton. His parents owned this single grocery store of the town for many, many years. And the kids started working there basically by the time they were 8. So Declan has worked since he was 8 years old, stocking shelves. And by the time he was 10, I think he was working the cash. And they were open 7 days a week. Sundays were half days. There was no downtime. There was no vacation time. So he kind of grew up like that. I had a little bit more vacation time, but it was not part of it just wasn't part of the way we lived and our reality and our routine or anything like that. Whereas some families, it's such a priority. And I'm going to just mention this part too. Like, I don't love traveling. And I've actually felt guilty about that for a long time, or weird about that. I like traveling and having some trips, but I am not someone who has wanderlust. I'm not someone that feels like they have to go see every part of the world. There's like a few countries I'd like to see. There's a lot of countries I don't actually want to see. I have no interest in going to. And I really like long weekends away, like 4-day trips, things like that. And I know a huge part of that is because I've always had a dog, since being an adult. And again, I kind of rather like hang out with my dog than other people sometimes, most of the time. But I'm very aware that I do need to push myself sometimes and just like force myself to take a break. And it is so important to see different parts of the world and how they live. And Declan kept saying to me, he's like, you've been stuck in Canada for the last, these really intense last 4 or 5 years. You have to get out and see how other people are living, because the energy in Canada has been just, I think, so heavy for, really since 2020. And I haven't really been very happy. And actually, I'm going through a huge grieving process about living here. That's another story for another day as well. But deep, deep grief about the way Canada has changed. So had to get away. It was really important. I'm like, Nicole, I'm going. We're making this happen. And I throw everything into a new carry-on I bought. It's so cute. It's like this bright pumpkin orange color. And so I'm calling it pumpkin. And because I didn't want black, because that just keeps getting lost everywhere. And I could only take a carry-on on this flight. So I throw everything into pumpkin. I'm like ready to go. I wash my hair. I got myself looking like a normal person. And Dad couldn't believe I was actually coming. He's like, I was for sure thinking you were going to make it. So I had basically 3 hours to get my life together, packed up, all the things. And Nicole drives me to the airport and she's like, this is a big deal. You haven't left in 5 years. And I said, yeah, it is a really big deal. But at the same time, it also felt normal because I used to travel to Ireland so much, but I hadn't been since November 2019. So I make it to the airport and feeling like absolute garbage. And all I wanted was French fries, because that's usually what I want after I've been really sick. Couldn't find any decent French fries because I'm really picky. So I sat there in the lounge eating a bag of Lay's plain potato chips, which are disgusting and awful for you, but I needed salt so badly. And so I ate the bag of chips and some Perrier. So I get on the plane. I land in Dublin. I had to make my way to the train station. I had no time to really research how to do this. I hadn't done it in years. Declan's usually with me. I had no data on my phone because I hadn't set that up for traveling. So I'm wandering around Dublin Airport. I find the bus terminal. I was like, I got to get on a bus. I almost got on the bus to Belfast, not in the direction I'm going. I'm going to the West Coast. I had to get to the train station to get to Sligo. And so anyways, I finally find the right bus, get to Dublin, get off. The bus guy was like, here, Connolly Station's over here, points in a direction. I was like, great. So I'm wandering around with Pumpkin, dragging it behind. And for some reason, I cannot find the train station. Like, I knew I was really close, but I could not find it. And I'm wandering and wandering, going in circles, asking people. People are kind of pointing me in a vague direction of some sort. Like, you know, when you ask people for directions or when you even give directions, like, anyway, so it took me maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. I make my way into, find the train station, go up, and I had to wait a couple hours for the train. All I wanted was a scone because the scones in Ireland, or you can call it a scone, but I still call it a scone, are the best, right? So I can definitely say that currently, as I'm sitting here, I am part scone. My DNA has probably shifted into a scone formation. I eat so many over there. I'm generally very carb positive, but when I'm over there, they're just like so amazing. I'm in the train station eating my scone, got my tea. Had to wait a couple hours, got on the train, make it to Sligo. Now, here's where I was like, yeah, here's the importance of taking a vacation. So I arrive at the train station. Declan's meeting me. We're about 20 minutes from his hometown. And I see him and I was like, wow, he looks really like vibrant. Like he's been there 2 weeks, right? And I was like, so obviously happy to see him. And his eyes looked really blue. And he's wearing this like blue Adidas top that he had bought. And I was like, wow, you look good. And he's like, yep, I've been having a great time. And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I need to go to the waterfall. So Glencar Waterfall is just a few minutes away. It is this magical, like you honestly are waiting for like leprechauns and fairies to just pop out because looks like it's out of a movie. I want to go to Glencar Waterfall. There's a cafe there. I want to sit down and have a cup of tea, probably another scone, right? Or another scone. And he's like, great. So we're sitting in the cafe before we went to go see the waterfall because I was really starving. I mean, traveling for about 18 hours at this point. And I'm looking at him and he looked like his eyes were so blue. He was so vibrant. He was like beaming light. And like, let's do like a Bella Edward throwback here. He looked dazzling, right? I just couldn't believe it. I just kept looking at him. I was like, you look so different. Like, I haven't seen you look this good and vibrant in I don't know how long. And he's like, yeah, I've been having an amazing time. Just even though there's been family stress and things like that, he's doing the walks every day. He's like by the ocean. He's connecting back to nature. He's happier in Ireland. Like that's just the bottom line. He's happier there. And I was just really shown visually the contrast of someone who is rested and happy versus someone who is constantly stressed and he has a really stressful, high pressure job. I couldn't honestly take my eyes off him just because he looked that different and that healthy and that good. Now, cut to this morning. He's only been at work back a week or even 4 days because he took the Monday off. And this morning I'm like, you don't quite look like how you did at Glencar Waterfall. And he's like, yeah, well, what do I look like? And I was like, you kind of look more like a tire blowout off the 401. Like that kind of vibe. He's like, thank you so much. I was like, no problem at all. Like he looks busted. He just looks awful. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I have to change lifestyle wise, but it was just like such an interesting wake up call. And I was like, do I look like a busted 401 tire right now? Like before my vacation, like I didn't have 3 weeks there. I only had a week, but I definitely feel like I looked a little bit more rested and things like that. Yeah. So, what a reminder to actually take time off. And while people talk about taking time and resting and we're trying to celebrate it, I do think that we live in a society that makes you feel guilty for taking time off, has a lot of judgment around taking time off. Like, how many times have, I've actually realized that I do get a little bit triggered when people take copious amounts of time off because I can't, or I choose not to. Like, that's ultimately what it is, or I think I can't. So I have kind of had to realize that a little bit, or people who travel a lot, I'll be like, not saying in my head, like, oh, wow, that must be nice. But it's kind of that, like, oh, like, I wish I could do that, but I can't. So I'm a little bit annoyed right now. And, that's just the truth of it. But generally speaking, especially in North America, taking time off is considered self-indulgent. Europe, of course, has a totally different perspective, and they start with 6 weeks vacation when they start a job. Here, you're starting with 2, and if you're lucky, you get 3. And I was just helping a client negotiate on their salary for their yearly review, and they wanted more vacation. Like, they couldn't get as much of a salary increase as much as they wanted, but I was like, well, we can look at, other things. And that's really important in salary negotiation or any kind of renewal of your package or your contract. It's not just about the money, it's all the other things. So it's like, why don't you push for 4 weeks vacation? So it did not happen. They were like, no one in this company takes 4 weeks vacation, not even like the owners. And I believe that is true that they're saying that, but how effed up is that? Like, I mean, it's just crazy. It's really, really crazy. So, as a sidebar, in that conversation, we went back to another salary increase. And got it. Just basically the equivalent of, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was the equivalent of taking another week of vacation. So that worked actually. So don't back down when they say no to something. You have to push a little bit more. They kind of expect you to push a little bit more. So back to Ireland, Declan's looking dazzling. I'm like, wow, I really needed to get away. And so we did have a good trip. Now, it was a lot of family stuff, which means that your time is not your own. So that can be a little bit challenging. But I really got some creative inspiration. I needed to just look at different things, go into different stores. I'm doing some packaging design right now. I wanted to see like different brands and get cool ideas. And I definitely got all of that. So it was incredible just to kind of reset and see how other people live and to be in nature. Now, you all know I'm obsessed with trees. I'm also really obsessed with water. Declan wouldn't be as much of a water person as me. He doesn't even really swim, but I need to be near the water. And we were right by the ocean. And so one day there's a place called Mullaghmore, and we went to Mullaghmore Beach and walked the ocean. And it was kind of a warm day. Like, we had some spectacular weather. So we took our shoes off. Declan's mom came along with us. She's the cutest ever. Like, I have the cutest, sweetest mother-in-law. And we took all our shoes off and we just walked the beach, the ocean, for probably a kilometer each way. And it's the most grounding, therapeutic thing that you can possibly imagine. If you haven't seen pictures of Mullaghmore, I have a few that I'm putting on my Instagram. Look it up. Fun, cool, interesting story. That is where if you watch The Crown, where that Crown series on Netflix, the Mountbatten guy, his boat, unfortunately, blew up over there. There's a deep rabbit hole story behind that. So that's an interesting one to go under or to go through. But it's a pretty well-known area. It's stunning. There's cliffs. Like, you're basically the northwest side of Ireland, but you're still in the south. So you're not in the northern part of Ireland. You're technically still in the southern part, but not too far below the northern border, probably 20 minutes or so. So it's really cool to look up photos of that and that whole area. And should you go to Ireland, you definitely need to reach out to me in terms of where to go, places to see, things to do, how to eat. I've been a vegetarian forever, so I've had to learn to navigate how to be a vegetarian in Ireland. And when I first started going, there was really nothing for me to eat. Like, I was living off French fries or chips, as I would say, and some beer, and vegetable soup. Every pub and every restaurant in Ireland has vegetable soup, which is like a pureed vegetable soup. And most of the time they're delicious, but I will say sometimes they're made with chicken stock. But anyway, if you're navigating Ireland and want tips, tricks, and all that stuff, please reach out. I've been going forever. I'm actually an Irish citizen now, so I got it through marriage, like back in the day, years and years ago, kind of thinking ahead and thinking forward. So that was Ireland. And now that I'm back, I've had to be thrown into work again and all of that stuff. It feels like a distant memory, as it always does with vacation. But I'm recognizing that even though it was really hard to get there, like so much was happening, the value of that time off, the value to my mind, body, spirit, the way I feel, I just feel different. And interestingly, some of you know that I've been going through tons of knee and hip pain. It was not as bad there as it is now. As soon as I got back, basically by Tuesday, I got back on a Sunday. By Tuesday, everything was flaring up massively. So I think there's a lot to look at there in terms of stress, how it's affecting things. Of course, Declan's looking like, a blown out tire. There's it's really making us think about how we want to live, because it is a slower lifestyle over there. Not necessarily if you were living in Dublin. And I wouldn't say Dublin's one of my favorite parts about Ireland. It's fun to visit, but I would never, ever live there. No, definitely not. We like the smaller towns, but I also can't be totally isolated. But it's one thing to go away and to realize that you felt better or that you needed the rest, but it's another thing to implement what you're feeling and taking away from that experience. And we're going to actually spend some time this weekend, like the both of us, just really thinking about, okay, we liked this slower lifestyle. We liked being more connected to nature. What are the plans? How can we do this? And right now, as we have a senior dog, we're not making any decisions about moving or making big lifestyle changes. But moving forward, it's something to think about. And I don't want to fall into that trap of we just have to go back to reality. This is the way it is. No, we get to choose how we live our life, but you have to recognize what is making you feel good, what is benefiting you, and then really being honest with yourself. Seeing how happy and healthy Declan looked in Ireland. I have to really accept that he probably is going to be happier there. So long term, as I said, we were going to spend some more time there. And his job right now is really stressful. So we have to look at that. There's so many different things to look at, but I'm not going to just sit here and go, oh, well, that's the way it is. We just have to suck it up. This is our life now, there's so much that's amazing about our lifestyles right now. Especially for me, I'm working from home. I'm thrilled. That's a huge thing for me. But I definitely want to be conscious of what we can do differently, how we need to shift, what is going to support our physical health more, our mental health, the spiritual health, all of those things. Yeah, lots to think about. And I am not going to fall into that trap of just thinking that we have to live our lives this way. And, I do feel like I'm on a bit of a hamster wheel still, even though I have a lot of autonomy with how I'm working. And I'm not so down with that, because this really comes down to the belief that society has carved out for most of us and imposed on us that we have to work 24/7. We have to just suck it up and do what needs to be done. And yes, you do. There's been times when I've had to do things I didn't want to do because it was for a greater purpose. We all have bills to pay. That's not changing, right? And our society and how everything is set up, you have to have, there's a lot of pressure to have consistent cash flows. So just moving to the west coast of Ireland and just living a nomad lifestyle or working when we want to be is definitely possible, but it requires a lot of strategy and thought and things like that. So I'm back from Ireland. I am part Scone. I have lived the Scone life. I love it. I will never be able to have one as good here as I have over there. or get a decent cup of tea, like I get in Ireland. Everywhere you go, the tea is like everyone knows how to make a cup of tea. You can be in the crappiest pub, like a dingy pub, and if you ask for a pot of tea, it's going to be glorious. Like it's going to be amazing. They just know how to do it over there. So like that's so important to me. It's the half British in me just needs that, right? So back to the reminder, please take vacation, notice how you feel, and also notice how you feel in different locations, different places, different scenarios. Like, where are you in your highest vibe? And I can just see it in people when they're aligned and they're like, again, Declan's vibration, his like aura was beaming like radiant light, like an angel. Like, yeah. And you know what? I really need to see that. I really needed to see how changing locations, contexts, scenarios, going on vacation can have a positive effect on us. And I had been too stuck in this like world. I'd been kind of like in my own self-imposed lockdown in a way. So no bueno, but we made it out. I'm kind of just proud of myself for getting through that trip and actually getting on that plane. Thrilled that Dolly is still doing really amazing. As soon as I got back on the Sunday, I had an 8 a.m. Well, of course I did. An 8 a.m. appointment booked with Dolly's ophthalmologist, and her eye pressure went down even more. So Nicole just did like a fantastic job of taking care of our little girl. And it all worked out. I'm thrilled to be back. And I have so many more stories to share with you. There's more things that happened in Ireland, but I'm going to pace myself here because it is like a bit of a comedy show over there as well, because, you know, family and just the culture and things like that. It's a good comedy show. It's an amazing comedy show. So take vacation, guys. Keep me posted on any of your travels to Ireland because I would love to help you. And we will chat soon. I got more episodes coming down the pipe and some amazing interviews. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.